All right, let's talk a little NBA draft. We are now joined by Locked On NBA Draft host Richard Stamen. Richard, thank you for your time as always. There's 3 Auburn Tigers I want to get your thoughts on. And Richard, I think we should start with the guy that's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. At least that's what Auburn fans are hoping for. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but let's start with Jabari Smith, who, as we record this Thursday afternoon, last night popped off for 31 against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, if you ask my co-host on Locked On NBA Draft, he is the number 1 player in the draft and should be the number 1 pick. I think there's a pretty strong case. I have him currently number 2. Yep. I think there's a very strong case that he could go number 1, given the fact that he's a 3-level scorer, can defend, has super active hands, forces turnovers, and has KD level size as a shot creator. It's a unique combo.
What does he need to do to elevate to that top spot in your mind?
I think, honestly, it's more of a thing about Paolo. I'm very, very big on his overall scoring upside. Yeah. I just see primary first option being an elite scorer, whereas Jabari's a very good scorer who's like just a teeny bit below. I think I can warm up to him eventually number 1, especially with how poor Paolo has been playing recently. But the defense could potentially win me over. I'm very torn going back and forth between those two.
And going into the season, it was those 2 guys and Chet Holmgren of Gonzaga, of course, were kind of, they're okay. These are the top 3 guys. Have the 2 that you just mentioned kind of separated themselves from Chet?
Man, they were starting to, and then Paolo started playing a little bit worse, and Chet started playing very well. Obviously, Jabari had 1 game against Georgia, I think it was, that he played pretty poor. But I can dismiss that. But it's a tight race, that those 3. I think Paolo is going to pop off again come tournament time, and that's going to make everything even juicier.
So obviously, Auburn fans watching Jabari, it's easy to fall in love with his game. I describe it as it just looks easy. Basketball just looks easier to him than everyone else on the floor that he plays throughout the SEC. But kind of get into the nitty gritty a little bit. Tell us exactly like what NBA teams are going to love about a guy like Jabari Smith.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the shooting again. Like he can shoot at literally any angle. I forget which game it was. I want to say it was the Arkansas game where he was double teamed and just turned around, hit an off balance jump shot that made no sense. No player in the country could do what he did on that. He does that every once in a while. No other player can do that as much as he does. It's the ability to shoot over defenses. No defender can really get a strong closeout that can really affect a shot. I don't know if he's even been blocked on a jump shot this year, which is another thing not many players can say. Yeah. And then the defense. I mean, his hands are ridiculously accurate. He can force turnovers. He's getting over a steal game. Like everything is there to support the defensive upside on that, and a block a game as well, which is an elite combo for a freshman.
Yeah, for sure. So, another guy that seems to be playing extremely well is Walker Kessler. And I talked to NBA folks earlier in the season that said, no matter what he does, he's probably a second-round guy or, maybe a free agent kind of dude. But I don't know, man. What he's doing right now defensively is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he is a special defender. I wish I could remember the exact stats. I should have pulled it up before this. But his block percentage, the blocks per 100 possession, any way you slice it, those block numbers with the foul ratio that he's getting, he's not fouling and he's blocking an elite number of shots, is unprecedented for an underclassman in college. The numbers are reserved for the guys who are seniors, 7'5", who camp in the paint. And Walker's not that. He's a little bit more versatile.
So does he have a chance to be a first-round player?
It's funny. If you had asked this exact question 6 months ago, after how horrible he was at North Carolina, I think everyone would have laughed in your face. But I think he really does. I think he's efficient enough on offense where he can be that play finisher, 64%. And obviously, he can shoot threes. And then he's blocking almost literally everything. So, yes, I think there's a good chance teams want a shot blocker who can stretch the floor.
I mean, how much do they value blocking? Because I know the ratio of his height to college players is pretty drastic, but once he goes to the NBA, everybody's going to be playing him, is able to, change their shot once they're in the air. You don't really see that as much at the college level. Does that translate well typically?
I think the thing that makes me a little bit more optimistic about him overcoming obstacles like that is his recovery ability. where he gets beat, and it happened last night in Vanderbilt. He was beat off one dribble, I think, against Scottie Pippen, and he still recovered enough to get the block. I think it was Scottie Pippen. Yeah. But he can just recover on any drive. His length really helps for it, even if he's not the fastest player. And that's really what separates him. A lot of these big college shot blockers, sure, they do this in college, but they can't recover against NBA level athletes. Walker can.
Right. So, I mean, if you had to pick right now, does Auburn have 2 first rounders when this is all said and done?
I think so. And you see winning teams usually do get the benefit of the doubt. And come draft time, they get a little bit more focus, a little bit more of an eye from scouts. So I would say yes.
Yeah, because that was a narrative a few months ago before he got as hot as he has, where it's like, okay, maybe he'll be a late first, and maybe he'll come back. Maybe Auburn fans will get to enjoy his play for another season. But at the rate they're going, if they go far into the tournament, whether it's another Final Four run or maybe it's even better than that, it's like your hype and the buzz around you is not going to get any higher. So at what point, like, okay, why is it worth it to come back? Does that matter? Is that a real thing, or is that just something that fans like to talk about?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit overhyped by fans, but I do think there is value. I mean, Walker Kessler, if he got drafted even 28th, he's making over $1 million. Is he making that through NIL next year? I don't know.
He's making a good bit, but yeah, I bet it's not $1 million. So no, I think that makes sense, man. Absolutely. Our guest is Richard Stayman with Locked On NBA Draft. I want to pause our draft talk just for a moment to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. It is the protein bar that looks and tastes just like a candy bar. It's all covered 100% in pure, delicious, good chocolate. And you eat this thing, you're like, how in the world is this good for you? It is. People are losing weight like crazy, crushing their goals for 2022. And it's not too late. You can get in on this delicious treat as well. And you'll find that most of the bars that you look at are around 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, just 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. It keeps you full. It's filling. Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off. That is at Built.com. Richard Stayman of Locked On NBA Draft. Before we move into the third player I want to ask you about, tell folks how they can check out and stay up to date on everything you guys have going on.
Yeah, so I do Locked On NBA Drafts. I'm on every Tuesdays, and we talk about Jabari Smith quite literally every single episode that we've done since November. So he is a constant on here, but you can also find me at Mavs Draft on Twitter. I try and field as many questions as possible on there.
Awesome, man. No, appreciate your time as always. So the third guy I want to talk about is Allen Flanigan. Going into the season, throughout the offseason, you saw, the way too early NBA mock drafts, and he was consistently in the top 20 selections. And then, he suffers that fluky, unfortunate, Achilles injury in the offseason. He misses virtually all of the non-conference schedule. And now he's back in SEC play, but he has not been the same player, especially offensively. I think defensively he's been okay, but offensively he's not the same guy. How is the NBA going to view a guy like Allen Flanigan, who seems to have the traits, but has not been able to put it all together on one side of the floor this year?
Yeah, like you said, the defense has been completely fine. I don't think there's really any concerns about that translating up, and even with the injury, how it's been affecting him this year. For offense, it really comes down to the jump shot. Will he be able to shoot? It's hard to say. His free throw percentage this year is 68%, which is less than ideal for anybody pretty much under 6'7", 6'8". You want to see them around 75 to really buy in. Obviously, last year, the better sample size, he had 5 attempts a game, 78% from the free throw line, so maybe he can get back there, and if you take out just the first 3 games, he's at 73%. So there is upside, but he still has never shot above 34% from 3. And at the end of the day, you can shoot free throws well. If you can't hit the jump shots with defenders in your face, that's going to be where he has to improve. I think that's the number one thing teams are going to look for, is how well can he shoot in the NBA.
Do you think he will be graded well by the NBA? Do you think he will hear good things and say, okay, I'm going to forgo the rest of my eligibility and do this thing, take a shot at the NBA?
So I think he will declare for the draft.
Yeah.
Will he stay in past the deadline? I'd right now say no. I think he's better served coming back for a senior season. And correct me if I don't know how the eligibility worked with last year because I know it was thrown off with the whole everyone gets an extra year. So I don't know if he has 2 more or 1 more, but if he has 1 more, I think it would really benefit him getting just a full, healthy off season and then coming in and exploding.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he's got plenty of years left at Auburn, so that would be it'd be great to see him for another year. Same time though, you want Bruce Pearl to be able to be putting guys into the league because it took him a little while to start doing that, right? I mean, it took a while to get, Chuma Okeke eventually got there, and then, they had a lottery pick with Isaac a few seasons ago, and then 2 second-rounders last year with Sharif and Thor. But, you're starting to see Auburn put more and more guys into the league. Is there a specific, thing that folks look at as far as, okay, this guy played for this coach? Does that ever matter? Does that ever hold any weight? You see it a ton in football. It's like, okay, this guy played for, Saban or, whoever it may be, and they kind of get a bump up. Is there any kind of respect that Bruce Pearl gets from the NBA ranks, do you think?
Well, I know Coach Calipari, for example, has a very known reputation for holding some of his players back almost intentionally. But I think Bruce Pearl is starting to rise to that. Like you said, the last 3 seasons, we've seen these guys who, I mean, some of them actually are pretty similar. I mean, JT Thor last year with the shot creation at 4 at 6'10" reminds me of, obviously Jabari Smith's a lot better, but I mean, the same, just looking at him completely from an outline perspective, they're very similar in build and things like that, and what they can do as, hitting shots off the dribble. I think Bruce Pearl's starting to rise there. I don't know how teams view him now, but I would imagine the perception is only getting better and you get the benefit of the doubt. Because I've heard of opposite with Rick Pitino, for example, in 2017. Donovan Mitchell was looked at in a negative light because Rick Pitino was not good for NBA development.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like all of Bruce's players, I mean, he gets the effort out of them. And I mean, you get dudes that are going to be willing to play defense because you won't play at Auburn if you don't play defense. I mean, that's got to be something that helps with their evaluation.
Yeah, the culture that's instilled there. There's other programs, I'm blanking off the top of my head, but there are other programs where that has occurred where they say, hey, we know that this is an emphasis. Maybe we don't have to do much work here in the NBA because it's already instilled in them. So I could 100% see that being a thing. And Bruce Pearl getting, recognition throughout the league.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Richard, thank you so much for your time yet again. And please tell folks one more time how they can find you, support you, hear you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Locked On NBA Draft every Tuesday. Again, talk about Jabari Smith just about every Tuesday. Yes. Might as well be Locked On Jabari Smith. And then at Mavs Draft will be the hub for anything I do, podcasts, scouting reports, big boards, mocks, regular tweets, just posting videos, anything like that.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, be sure to check him out. Give him some Auburn family love.